Have you ever wondered why men seem unable to show their real feelings? What if I told you that a man deeply in love with you has already told you, just in a way most women never notice? Carl Jung discovered something powerful. The unconscious mind doesn't use logic. It speaks in symbols, in repeated patterns in behavior. And when it comes to love, especially for men, their unconscious often says more than words ever can. You see, men don't always say, "I love you," the way movies have trained us to expect. They don't always announce it, post about it, or shout it from rooftops. No, when a man is truly, deeply, soul-shakenly in love, he speaks in a code. He uses a sentence that sounds normal, even plain, but behind it is his entire emotional world. And here's the part no one tells you. Most women miss it. They miss it because they're waiting to hear romance, but what he's offering is reverence. They're looking for big gestures, but what he gives is quiet loyalty. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So, today, we're turning on the light, because the man in your life, or the one who's coming into your life, he may already be speaking to you from the deepest part of his soul. He's just not doing it in the language you expect. And that's what I want to show you today. I'm going to uncover the 7 phrases a man says only when he's in love with his entire being. They won't sound poetic. Some may even sound like everyday words, the kind you'd barely notice. That's the key. These phrases aren't about what's being said. They're about when he says them, why he says them, and how he says them. Think about it this way. A tiger doesn't purr like a house cat, a volcano doesn't whistle like a kettle, and a man in love doesn't always say, "I love you." He shows it in the way he breaks his own emotional habits. That's how you know it's real. Before we begin, I just want to ask you for something. If any part of what you've heard so far already stirs something inside you, if your heart whispers, "This explains so much," please like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. I'm pouring my soul into this, not just to explain, but to help women finally understand how real love speaks through men. Because once you hear the first phrase, you'll never listen the same way again. You might even realize he's been loving you this whole time, in a language deeper than words. What do you think? A man's strength isn't just about what he can carry, it's about who he trusts enough to carry it with him. So let's start with a phrase that sounds so simple, so everyday. What do you think? You've probably heard it over coffee, during a drive, while he's scrolling on his phone. Maybe he said it half distracted, looking up at the ceiling. But don't get it wrong, because when a man truly loves you, those 4 little words mean everything. It's not just a polite question, it's a quiet act of surrender. Carl Jung taught that the male mind is shaped by the inner warrior, the part built for action, for control, for handling things alone. That warrior doesn't need help. That warrior doesn't ask for advice. That warrior leads, hides weakness, makes choices alone. So when a man looks into your eyes and says, "What do you think?" he's stepping out of that armor. He's breaking his own rules. That's not small talk. That's him saying, "I trust you with something that matters to me." Picture a soldier on the battlefield. He's used to being in charge, calling all the shots, but now he radios back not for orders, but for your insight. That's what's happening here. He's not just asking you for your opinion. He's showing you that your thoughts guide his path. And for a man, that's sacred. Now, maybe you're thinking, "But he asked me which shirt looks better." That's not life-changing. True. But don't just listen to the words. Watch how he says them. Look at his eyes, his posture, the softness in his voice. Does he actually pause to hear what you'll say? Then it's not about shirts. It's about inviting you into his world. Because when a man lets you help him choose, when he brings you into his decisions, he's not giving up power. He's sharing his life. He sees you not as a background character, but as a partner, a woman whose mind holds weight. And that means something deep. I'll tell you about Mara. She was calm, thoughtful in her 50s and had been with her partner for more than a decade. One day, during a conversation about retirement, he looked at her and asked, "What do you think I should do?" She said later, that moment meant more to her than the ring he gave her, more than any romantic note, because in that one question, she felt his heart. She knew he couldn't picture the future without her voice in it. So next time a man asks you that question, take a pause, feel what he's really saying. Because sometimes what do you think really means, I need your wisdom to move forward. And don't ever doubt that your opinion matters. Your insight is influence. Your voice is a compass in his storm. You're not just answering a question, you're shaping a future he wants you to be part of. I had a rough day. The strongest man isn't the one who hides his pain. It's the one who knows where it's safe to put it down. Let's talk about a sentence that sounds small but carries heavy meaning. He walks in, drops his keys, rubs his neck, and says, I had a rough day. Seems simple, right? But if you only hear the words, you'll miss what he's really giving you. Because when a man says this and really means it, it's not just a recap, it's a reveal. It's vulnerability. Carl Jung said that the male mind is built around the warrior, that part of him that survives, leads, protects, and pushes through. And what does the warrior never do? Show weakness. That's why so many men, good men, kind men, loving men, walk through life carrying emotional weight they never let anyone see. Not because they don't feel, but because feeling for them means breaking the image of what they think a man should be. So when he looks at you and says, I had a rough day, that's not just him complaining. That's him choosing to be seen. That's him trusting that with you, he doesn't have to pretend. It may not be poetic. Most men don't cry on cue. They don't give big speeches about their emotions. But when he gives you that little opening, when he says, today was hard, he's handing you the key to his inner world. And if he lets you see him tired, that's a man whose heart already feels safe with you. Here's what many women miss. They brush past that moment. They try to cheer him up too fast or think he's just moody. But this is where love lives, in the quiet, in the real, in those few honest words that cost him more than you know. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to make it better. You just have to hold space for it. Maybe he sits beside you and says nothing at all. Maybe he simply wants to exist near you without having to explain every thought. That's not distance, that's trust in its realist form. Because when a man says, I had a rough day, what he's really saying is, you're where I feel safe. You're the one place I don't need to wear my armor. And when you answer that moment with grace, with silence, tension, not pressure, or questions, you become his calm in the middle of chaos. Ladies, don't overlook how powerful it is for a man to soften in your presence, because when he shares his stress with you, he's not just venting, he's sharing his heart. And then comes something even more subtle. He doesn't use emotional words at all. Instead, he reacts to something you changed in his space. And that's where love speaks in a quieter language. Stay close now, because here's where it gets tender. He says, I like how you arranged this. A man's space isn't just a place, it's where his identity finds structure. So let's pause on this phrase that might sound casual, but carries a deeper message. I like how you arranged this. Maybe he says it after you straightened the cushions or shifted the mugs around or added a plant to a quiet corner. Maybe you moved the couch just a little or set something down differently, something tiny, something he never asked for. But he still notices and says he likes it. Now, let me tell you what that really means in simple terms when it comes to a man's mind. His space is sacred. His room, his truck, his office, or even that cluttered garage shelf full of old tools. Those aren't just spots. Those are symbols of his sense of control, his way of holding himself together, which means letting someone else shift that space, even just a bit, isn't about taste, it's about trust. So when he says, I like how you arrange this, it's not just giving a compliment, he's letting you in. You now have access to a part of his world. He never gives freely access to the life he's crafted, to stay in control, access to the version of him few ever get close to. Because a man's life is built in sections. There's a place for working, a place for relaxing, a place for being alone. But when he starts letting you blur those lines, add a soft touch, leave a trace. It's not about the shelf or the pillow. It's about what you represent. You're not just visiting, you belong here. You're not just adjusting the room, you're becoming part of the whole. And that's not decorating. That's integration. You don't need to live with him to shift his world. Your energy alone can start the transformation. Suddenly he's burning a candle instead of tossing his socks in the corner. Suddenly he's buying the snacks you love. Suddenly there's space for your things, your books, your scent, your presence in quiet ways. When he lets you shape his surroundings, he's really saying, you're shaping me. And I'm no longer afraid of it now. Let me tell you about Simone. She dated a man who had been living solo for years, clean, organized, private. One day she adjusted his kitchen layout, just made it flow better, nothing major. When he came home, he looked around and softly said, I like how you set this up. She almost didn't think much of it, but weeks later, he brought it up again and said, that's when I realized I could let someone into my world and not feel like I was losing myself. That's the power in those small words. It's not about decor. It's about letting go. It's about sharing. It's about home. So next time you hear him say something like that, don't dismiss it. He's not just accepting your changes. He's telling you you're a part of his world, and then he does something else. He begins to talk about tomorrow, but what he's really doing is giving you a glimpse of forever. Listen closely now. What are you doing tomorrow? We don't make plans with people we plan to forget. So let's look at this soft question. What are you doing tomorrow? You might hear it and think, he's just trying to see if you're free. Maybe a quick lunch or some casual hangout. But no, that's not what's happening here. Not when it's coming from a man who truly cares for you. Because time for a man isn't just about dates and hours. It's tied to his sense of purpose, to his direction, to how he sees his life. And when a man starts inviting you into that timeline, even in small ways like tomorrow, it means something real is happening deep down. He's not just asking for your time. He's weaving you into his journey. And here's what most don't realize. Men don't casually offer up their future to just anyone. If he's making room for you in it, it's because his heart has already started moving in your direction. When a man starts picturing you in his tomorrow, he's already quietly choosing you for something more permanent, because the way men are built, they're always moving towards something, the next task, the next goal, the next challenge. But when he stops for a second, turns toward you and asks about your next day, he's not just filling his schedule, he's trying out what life would feel like with you in it. Every little time he says, what are you doing this weekend? Or want to come with me next month? He's not just talking about plans, he's stitching you into his momentum, into the path he's building forward. That's not just logistics, that's emotional investment. Now let me share this from Tara. She used to get irritated when her boyfriend always asked what she was doing tomorrow, even when they had no solid plans. She thought maybe he was being too controlling or overly involved, until one day he looked at her and said, I just like knowing where you are. It makes me feel close to you. And in that moment, she got it. It wasn't about control. It was about closeness. So the next time he asks that question, even if it feels small, don't brush it off. He's not just curious. He's seeing if you still fit into his picture of the world. And when he starts talking